Okay, so for the second half of this, sorry, it only allows for 15 minutes of recording. I just wanted to make sure we got this in, that this is Dr. Christian Head, and the video, it's just a short video. It kind of describes a legal case that he was involved in. He was a doctor of head and neck surgery or surgeon at UCLA, and he went through this pretty horrific experience with overt, it wasn't in the air, like Steele would say, overt racism, and was told just to deal with it. And UCLA is actually kind of over the years had many issues with race, both for faculty and for students. And since affirmative action has been in place since the late 90s, the enrollment for African Americans at the UC system has really dropped. And so anyway, he ended up winning his $4.5 million discrimination suit. But I really think you should listen to what he went through carefully, and sort of how it was dealt with, and what he tried to do, and how he tried to reason, and why, even though he is the best in his area, works the hardest he can, still has these issues. And I think that's the point that Coates wants to make. You know, no one is protected. It doesn't matter if you're wealthy, if you're African American, or another, person who might be marginalized in a way, but particularly with African Americans, there is, it doesn't, your wealth and your success doesn't protect you from racism. Okay, another example, this was also at UCLA. Oh, sorry, there's two things here. The clip here, the link, is for about a blackface party that happened, and it was a sorority party, and they basically were dressing up as African American, and called it a Kanye West party, and kind of really exaggerated outfits and blackface. And they said, well, it was a little mistake, sorry, but something to consider that you may have to face if you were an African American student and have a whole group of popular students on campus having a party based on your ethnicity, and what that would do to your sense of self-worth and your ability to perform in school. This was a second case, sorry, here at a high school in Phoenix. And Phoenix has had a history of issues with race as well. And you can see that they had originally, they're from a pep squad thing, and they originally had signed up, like lined up to congratulate the graduates, and that's what the original lineup with the lettering was for. And then afterwards they were talking, and they got together, and these girls lined up and did this, and purposely trying to spell the N-word, and took the picture and posted on Twitter and thought it was funny. And it's like, okay, so if you're African American, how then is this going to impact you if you go to the school or you see this on Twitter? So, I think Coates wants us to really reconsider the American dream. Is it, we know that some of the early images in the 50s were unrealistic about the American dream, but but a lot of people, sacrifice a lot to come here and to be here. And it does provide, America does provide a lot of things that other countries do not, very repressive regimes in other countries. That being said, if you look at it through the lens of an African American who, from no fault of his or her own, then has this secondary treatment and has had years of it, and and so the equity is not being addressed there. All right, so we're going to shift now, it's very abrupt, sorry, to looking at some technical things. And we're going to look at how to introduce and cite quotes. And I'm going to go over these on your essays that you just turned in, but I think I want to review them. So basically when you introduce a quote, there's three ways, and we're using MLA format, Modern Language Association format. And that focuses on literature and humanities. And the basic rules are that it's, when you talk about the quoted material, it's always in the present tense. You use page numbers and last name of author to cite the source. Those are the two major rules. So, and there's three ways to introduce a quote. You can use a phrase, which is like not a complete sentence, but a group of words. And you can introduce, you have to introduce all quotes. You have to have, all quotes have to be introduced. You can't just drop a quote in. So you could use the author's name and use a verb like argues, believes, suggests, comma, quotation mark, have the quote, quotation mark, and then parentheses, page number, period. You see that example here. Or another kind of phrase like according to the author, and do the same thing. You'll notice in the second one, the author's name is not in the introduction to the quote. If that's the case, you want to put the author's name with the page number. Okay, those are the two options for the name and page number. And when that happens, you put the author's name. You don't need P or PG for page number, just the actual number. If you're using an online source for the book, like an ebook, just write the author's name, and then you, in your works cited page, put that it's an ebook, and you will have a page number that's listed in the ebook, and you can use that as well. But if it's like something like 2100, I'll know it's an ebook and not a regular book. Complete sentence introduction. This is a second way. If you want to use a complete sentence to introduce the quote, you can do that. It's just instead of the period at the end of the sentence, you use a colon to introduce it. Finally, the kind of, I think one of the nicest ways to introduce quotes is to have it embedded into your sentence. And the more you do that, the more it looks like you own the material, you really know it well. And so here's an example, and you'll see it better on the slides, but it says, Coates believes those who dream are sleepwalking in this world. And then that second half of the sentence is the quote, but you embed it into the grammar and structure of your own sentence. Okay, so one special kind of quote is a block quote. And basically the conditions are 4 lines of quoted material that's typed out on your page when you're using 1-inch margins like MLA format. If it goes over that, then what you want to do is double indent from the left, and you want to keep the right margin the same, keep it all double spaced like you would everything else. Take off the quotation marks because you're double indenting instead. And then introduce the whole quote with a colon at the end of that sentence. And the ending punctuation that you would normally have here, like the ending punctuation here, the period would then be moved inside instead of outside. Okay, so those are the 3 major differences of what you need to do to set up a block quote. Here's a sample, what it looks like. The introduction is a complete sentence. It doesn't have to be, but it should have a colon here. This will be, because I didn't have room, I single spaced it, but it would be double spaced. And no other indenting, just double indented from the left, so it stands out. And then the page number here. If you didn't have quotes up here, you would put quotes in here. The punctuation then, though, on block quotes goes on the inside. And then you continue that discussion of that quote back here. If you were starting a new paragraph, which you probably wouldn't after a quote, you would indent it once. So that is it. I'm looking forward to digging into these. I saw already 13 people have worked on the discussion for this new one, and I'm excited to look at those. If you have questions, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to answer them. Text several that we've had 3, 4 people who've dropped, and then people who kind of had some issues with the peer group. So I'll be switching up the peer groups. If you really liked your peer partner and it's kind of mutual, let me know. Otherwise, I'll switch them up for the next one. Okay, I'm looking forward to working with you, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.